Source, we're ready.
All right. And I will go ahead and call the meeting of Vallejo Flood and Wastewater District to order at 5:40 p.m. And I will ask the clerk to please call the roll call.
Yes, trustee James,
Present.
trustee Matias,
Present.
trustee Jordan,
Present.
secretary Matula,
Present.
vice president Source.
Present.
And let it known for the record that trustee Redenser and trustee Palmeris are excused and that president Liviu will be arriving shortly.
All right, with that, let's all stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that is going to bring us to item 3, approval of agenda. Looking to my colleagues, are there any requests for changes to the agenda? And if no requests, I believe we do have an amendment. I'll go over to the clerk.
Yes, thank you, President. So the district staff would like to inform the board that a revision was made to item 4.5. The staff report resolution required a slight language change to meet CalPERS requirements. You all have copies of the revisions with the highlighted text that was added. That is all regarding changes. Everything else stays the same, and these changes will be reflected in the minutes. That is all.
All right, thank you very much.
And
Go ahead, Claire.
one more thing was we were hoping that we could move item 5.
5.4 after 5.1. So just move it up.
5.4, so reorder and take 5.4 second on the
Right.
administrative
Yes.
items.
Move 5.4 right after 5.1.
Thank you.
All right, I'm not taking objections from the board, so do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended with 5.4? Great. That's it, right? We need to say exactly the amendments? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the agenda has been approved with the reorder of 5.4 to be heard after 5.1 and with the amendment as described in item 4.5. That will bring us to our consent calendar, and I think we already announced item 4.5. Do we have anything to add before we proceed with the consent calendar?
Yes, so pursuant to AB 707, I will announce the terms of the general manager's proposed change to compensation, which is item 4.5. The change to compensation would be a 3% salary increase, bringing the total base salary to $335,138, retroactive to February 1, 2026. And the benefits would be the same as with all other employees of the district, as is currently the case. And that is before you as section, I'm sorry, for item 4.5.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Collins. Before we ask the board, are there any public commenters on this item?
We have noticed people.
All right, so we'll close public comment. Do any board members wish to pull any items from consent? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Trustee Gordon, were you adding?
I was kind of curious about the 4.5. Is this what we separate ourselves from, or is something
No.
different?
So we're on the consent calendar, so this is administrative. So
You said 5 point something, right?
You might be thinking of 5.5.
so the only thing we did was we moved
Right.
right forward here.
Right.
But all these items.
All right, I thought we went past that.
We are on the consent. Are you all right? Are you and I on the consent calendar?
Yeah, no,
All right.
I'm good, thank you.
Consent calendar passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We're gonna move on now to item 5, administrative items, and we will start with 5.1. I'll turn over to our general manager to announce the first item.
Absolutely, thank you. So this item basically is to talk about the Renew It project, which we will describe what it is. We have the Director of Technical Services, Tracy Rideout, and your senior engineer, Natalie Meridian.
Great, thank you both.
We have a presentation to talk about.
Give me 1 second.
And the reason for this presentation, obviously this is the nutrient project that we'll talk about. There's, this has been going on for a long time, several years. We want to make it so it's in your mind, what it's about, because it's just been a lot of time in the past. So just a kind of a refresher, of why this project, and we do have, some more information, so just wanna provide that to you, just to wanna renew it in your mind.
Good evening, board members. My name is Natalie, senior engineer, and I'm going to be presenting tonight with Tracy Rideout, director of services. And we're going to be providing an update and refresher on our nutrient removal requirements and discussing our multi-benefit strategy for this complex project. Mark kind of stole my thunder on that.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. So a quick refresher on why nutrient removal is important. So wastewater treatment plants like Valeo's simply weren't built to remove nitrogen from wastewater. So these nutrients get transferred into the San Francisco Bay through our effluent discharge. So why is this a bad thing? Well, through a process called eutrophication, the excess nutrients can lead to algae growth. So this map in the center of the slide shows high concentrations of algae growth in the San Francisco Bay, which resulted in fish kills. And this was a highly publicized event. This event ultimately led to the expedited implementation of these regulatory requirements for nutrient removal. So all the wastewater treatment plants that discharge into the San Francisco Bay are now under this compliance deadline for removing nutrients. So here's a brief timeline of these events. The regulatory agencies enacted the permit requirements in 2024. However, before that, we had anticipated that nutrient removal was going to become a requirement. We just didn't know how or when. So as far back as 2018, we've been evaluating concepts for removing nutrients from our wastewater. Starting in 2020, we embarked on a wastewater treatment plant master plan that evaluated additional alternatives for nutrient removal. And it was lucky that we had already started this process. So by the time we completed it in 2023, we had experienced that fish kill in 2022 that had resulted in the expedited regulatory requirements that came about in 2024. So by the time we had gotten to that permit requirement in 2024, we had already done enough legwork to have an idea of the holistic project cost. And so when we went to the board to raise our sewer rates, and we were able to incorporate that holistic project cost into those sewer rates that the board approved back in 2024. Since then, we've further evaluated the project, and we've hired an owner's advisor to help us step through this project in the most efficient and effective way possible. And that will help us get us to our 2034 permit compliance deadline. So that leaves us a span of 8 years in which we need to design and construct and start operating this project in order to get us to that compliance deadline. So what does nutrient removal infrastructure look like for the district? So for us, we're going to be constructing a new aeration basins and aeration blowers, as shown on the pictures on the left-hand side in the middle. And we're going to have piping and pumping modifications, essentially a brand new pump station. And all of this will have increased electrical loads, which our existing electrical system will not be able to accommodate. So we're going to have new electrical equipment as well. If new development in the city of Vallejo is greater than we anticipate, or there's new stricter regulatory requirements that will in addition require additional infrastructure such as new clarifiers and new piping and pumping modifications as well. So the new nutrient removal infrastructure is going to be tied into and used in conjunction with our existing infrastructure. However, much of our existing assets are either near or very at the end of their useful service life. And so we have this severe wastewater treatment plant operating environment, and we have extensive ground settlement throughout the site. And both of those conditions exacerbate our existing assets and help continue the deterioration. So we need to program in capital improvement projects to bring our what we call state of good repair projects that help ensure reliability and bring our reduce the likelihood of failure for our existing system. So programming in both nutrient removal projects and these state of good repair projects is going to be a significant challenge. And the challenge isn't simply paying for the project, though that's certainly a challenge. It's also going to be maintaining our existing system while limiting service interruptions, but also meeting our existing regulatory compliance requirements. And so all of that's going to be extremely challenging while we're doing all this new construction. And so the way that we're hoping to manage some of these challenges is through an innovative project delivery method called progressive design build. And so through this project delivery method, it allows us to hire an engineering team and a contracting team at the very beginning of the project, which gives us greater control over who we can select for the contractor, and that's not typical. This collaboration also gives us the opportunity for greater innovation, and it gives us more construction insight earlier on in the project, which helps provide greater cost certainty earlier as well. And it can also help us reduce the project delivery timeframes, which is good because we have such a tight schedule that we need to implement all of these improvements. So all of these project improvements, the new tree removal infrastructure, the state of good repair projects, and delivering both of these components through the progressive design build method is what we're calling our Project Renewed. So as Mark said, this is a new name that we selected for the project, and it stands for Reducing Effluent Nutrients and Enhancing Wastewater Infrastructure for Tomorrow. So the choices we make now are going to impact the project's potential to transform Vallejo's future. Currently, the biggest challenge that we're facing is where to put our new required infrastructure. So the remainder of this presentation will focus on the pros and cons of on-site construction versus expansion, and why the city-owned 50 Solano property presents a more synergistic option for Vallejo as a whole.
Natalie? Okay. This slide shows an aerial image of our existing Ryder Street plant and lists some of the limitations associated with on-site construction. While staff has evaluated our site, what's shown as the green box with red outline indicates what we consider the best place for new infrastructure. That infrastructure would be designed to meet the current permit limits that are required for nutrient removal. And it requires relocating some existing field operations facilities. Further, any expansion to that or reduction of those limits will require additional infrastructure, which will require additional relocation. On-site construction also requires complex sequencing, which means there's a lot of temporary equipment, there's shutdowns, there's utility integrations between contractors and operation staff, which is very difficult. And these constraints lead to higher contractor risk, and generally that means longer construction timelines. On-site constraints also limit the ability of the designer to be creative and limits opportunities for innovation, which I'll talk about some of those innovation opportunities later in the slideshow. So constructing these improvements while operating a live plant is akin to driving or rebuilding a car while you're driving it. It's just really difficult. And the cost, risk, and operational failure exposure are all substantially higher, which result in greater overall risk of permit noncompliance, which we try to avoid at all costs. So the engineering team has been working hard on Project Renew It, and it meets both our permit requirements and our state of good repair goals. And while it's challenging, it is possible within our existing footprint to build these improvements. However, recent conversations and you board members have smartly pointed out that importance of other community factors are also needed to be considered, such as effective odor control and visual screening, and positively influencing economic development. These goals are much more difficult with on-site construction. So rather than struggling with on-site construction, a significant advantage lies in expanding the plant's footprint, and 50 Solano offers a more cost-effective solution. It provides ample room for expansion and offers the opportunity to turn what you see here into something better. Something more aligned with Vallejo's overall community goals. And what you see here is a rendering of what could potentially be constructed on the 50 Solano site, which includes the infrastructure assets that Natalie described, aeration, clarifiers, pumping stations, as well as new administration facilities, workforce enhancements, green infrastructure solutions, and visual screening and barriers, potential for nature-based solutions down the road. The fact is that construction is messy and complex business, and higher risk means higher costs. In contrast to on-site work, 50 Solano offers a safer and cleaner, more predictable construction project. Using open space allows the contractor to build most of the facilities in an offline manner. That simplifies site investigations. It reduces risk of unidentified underground utility conflicts. It requires less temporary equipment, fewer bypasses, less shutdowns, and provides for shorter construction duration. All this means lower contractor risk, and in a contractor's eyes, lower risk equals lower cost. Construction on 50 Solano Avenue is also the best way to future-proof our sewer service to the community. The fact is that regulatory tightening is a reality that we face, and 50 Solano provides expansion potential to meet future needs. Construction on an unimpacted site creates synergies that just don't exist within our current footprint. The larger site will provide an opportunity for workforce modernization improvements, which are sorely needed at our current space limited facility. The fact is, we struggle to even create room for new bathroom improvements. A focus on economic development also requires considering additional capacity or higher strength waste treatment improvements. And accommodating these needs are simpler at 50 Solano, where room exists to expand our infrastructure. Additionally, the site allows resiliency to be designed in, one of those innovations that we've talked about earlier. This means planning for sea level rise, power generation and treatment process modifications, as well as building in creative solutions which are beneficial. An example is that we could produce excess nutrient reduction credits for trading in a secondary market as a way to get alternative income generation. That's a solution that people in the Bay Area are working on. All these things are more realistic possibilities at 50 Solano than with on-site construction. But lastly, I'd like to highlight that 50 Solano provides better outcomes for the community. The site allows for incorporation of improved aesthetics. It has buffer space for screening, and it gives you greater flexibility to integrate treatments like state-of-the-art odor control improvements. And all these things encourage a sense of pride in the community's publicly owned treatment works. The possibility exists for construction of nature-based solutions and or a centralized green stormwater infrastructure, a possibility that could reduce upfront costs for new waterfront developers and maximize their developable footprint. Having extra space also provides the potential to get public access to district facilities and support education-based outreach efforts, which would support wastewater career planning, including one idea to add a community training facility at the district. The 50 Solano site also supports long-term land use planning for revitalizing underutilized property, and it consolidates major infrastructure improvements where they fit best. This directly supports the capacity, compliance, and resiliency goals that are stated as recommendations in the recently issued Maritime Revitalization Strategic Plan. That document also prioritizes readiness for federal and state funding, and having a compliant wastewater treatment plant with capacity to serve would significantly strengthen Vallejo's position for that funding. In the coming weeks, the city will deliberate on selling 50 Solano to the district. The land purchase allows the city and the district, which share leadership and community representation, to advance a coordinated, multi-beneficial public works investment. Vallejo Renew It is a once-in-a-generation investment in clean water, environmental resiliency, and reliable service. And construction at 50 Solano allows delivery of this essential project more safely, economically, and with the flexibility we need to meet tomorrow's needs. It's not just beneficial to the district, it's the responsible path forward for Vallejo. That concludes the presentation. We're happy to take any questions you have.
Thank you very much, and our president is now here, so I will pass it on to her.
So thank you for stepping in, Vice President. So Mr. Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to provide public comment?
And we do not, President, let you, nobody in the public you.
So I will now open the floor for questions and discussions to our board members who wish to speak.
I have, two, possibly three questions for you guys. The first one is, I actually wanna go back in time, because I've heard different narratives on how we got to 50 Solano, and I just wanna make sure we get that on public record, or at least get your perspective on how we got here. So, can you, share with me and this board what additional sites were looked at? And whether or not some of these sites were considered outside of 50 Solano. I think if you all wanna answer, that's fine. Just wanna get some clarity around that.
Maybe I can start. So originally, as we've been planning this for a long time, we've known new trends coming. We were looking at sites, we brought it up to a board meeting 5 or 6 years ago. At that time, the auction yards were there, and we were told that, hey, this is one of our big tax producers for the city. Most likely, this will not be a site for, shortly thereafter, the auction yard left. We immediately contacted the city and said, hey, this is a site that we could use for this project. As we started to get farther, so that was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. 3 or 4 years later, when we finally started to make some headway and we got some coordination with the city did ask the question, what other sites are available? Where else can you go? So we did start to look at other sites around the planet. Is there anything close by that potentially could use? And as you know, there's no open sites around us. In fact, the city of Blair has very little industrial properties in the city. But we needed something very close to the district. So we did look at the properties around us just to kind of peruse this, just generally, hey, is anybody looking to sell? Is anybody leaving soon? Is there any possibility based on the size of the properties? So we did look at that as well. Overall, nobody's selling. There's no properties coming available. This is an open property. It's more synergistic for our plant expansion. So it was determined to be the best property for us.
If I could just add a couple of things to that. On Mark's point, we've looked at other sites around the plant, but from a engineering perspective, I mean, the closer the better, right? It requires hydraulic pumping, it requires movement of water through these process facilities. That a site that's unconnected or separated from our current plant, it increases the complexity and the required power of operation significantly, not to mention the operational staff's complexity in running the plant. So, I think that as I've been here for 5 years, 50 Solano has been the primary objective for expansion since I've been here. And I think that records show that we've been considering that for longer, as Mark said, up to 8 years. And while other located sites around us are possibilities, it makes the most hydraulic sense because our secondary equipment is located on that side of the plant. So it minimizes the amount of disruption and the amount of utility connections that would be required. Also has the opportunity for a new utility connection, and we really need a new utility connection for our power generation. So those are all reasons.
Thank you. Question 2 has to do with an increase in capacity. So this project is meant to address the nutrient issue, regulatory issue behind it. How are you guys, or what are the plans that you have in place to address increased capacity for future development?
We've just discussed this, I'll let you take it.
We, in order to design the system for nutrient removal, we're looking at incorporating, we're looking at a range of population growth. So between, I think, 0.3% to 1% per year of growth, over the next 20 years. And so that's like that 1% population growth per year is already bigger or greater than what we experience in Vallejo. So it's on the conservative side. Does that answer your question?
I guess more specifically, where would the build out of that infrastructure be? If it were to take place?
But we didn't consider where it would take place, because ultimately the sewer arrives to the plant. And so we're sizing treatment infrastructure. And over the past decade, the growth in population of the Vallejo community has been below 0.3%. So we're factoring in a range of possibilities between current growth and up to 400 times what we've been seeing over the past 10 years. In fact, the last 4 years, the growth has been negative. So, regardless of where the growth takes place, the sewage comes to the plant and we have to treat it. So we're considering not only current permit limits, but also future permit limits through regulatory tightening that I described, which, you know, right now they're saying you gotta reduce effluent nitrogen and ammonia by 40%. It could be 60% next, or 70%, or other regulatory considerations would come into play. Jennifer might be able to speak more on that if I'm stating it wrong.
No, I agree. I was just pointing out one of the other scenarios they projected is wet season monitoring. One thing that we didn't go into is right now, the current monitoring only happens during the dry season, May 1 to September 30th, when our flows are historically lower. And in the winter, we do not have to report our monitoring results. But one of the future possibilities is to have year-round monitoring and year-round compliance, which would greatly impact the amount of sewage we would have to treat down to that 40% removal level, or lower than 40%.
Yeah, so to get to a finer point on, I think what you're driving at is, our considerations included all known projected growth that's considered within the city's general plan, and additional growth beyond that. So where it goes, if it's Borges Ranch, if it's Blue Rock Springs, if it's Mare Island, it all is considered in the projections that we've done the modeling on. And, we're satisfied that we've made solid projections on that growth.
President, I have one final question. Final question is around, just the challenge that we're having, not just managing this district, but with other hats that some of us may or may not wear. So my question is the following: where's your courtyard right now? Do you have a courtyard?
It's here,
It's right here. And does,
if I could bring up the, if I could have control that.
Go ahead.
So the corporation yard is actually right where that green box is.
okay,
And that's, we call that our field operations.
and then where's the project in relation to that, or where's 50?
50 Solano is on the other side of Solano Avenue. Yes, thank you, Claire. Left of those
This area.
4 circular.
Is it in one of your slides you were showing
Yeah.
earlier?
So this is, it's looking north. And the existing secondary clarifier, the north secondary clarifier is on the bottom of the screen on the left. The bio tower is to the left of that, and 50 Solano is across the street, that vacant space. And this would be what development of that site would potentially look like.
Okay, I guess what I'm getting at with my last question, just a hypothetical, does your current courtyard, and I don't know how much design you've done into the new project, but would there be some possibility for you to expand the size of your current courtyard and have joint use agreements with other agencies for revenue generating purposes?
Yeah, it's not something that we considered in this presentation. I mean, I don't know how much we haven't really discussed that, but certainly a larger site that has expansion potential could consider those things. And we don't know where CARB regulations are going either with electrification. We have a plan now to use one of the models that's allowable to like change our fleet in certain milestones. But electrification infrastructure is certainly a possibility for building shared infrastructure, much like the green stormwater infrastructure idea. Those are possibilities. It would take more room, and on-site actually reduces our corporation yard footprint, on-site construction will. Thank you.
Any of the members? So I have a question with regards to the placement at 50 Solano versus other locations. You assert that being at 50 Solano is the right place because of where it's sitting, of where all the existing infrastructure is and the ease of connection. So if you had to go to some of the other sites, what would be the delta in cost by having to do such work?
We haven't considered those hard numbers. I think Natalie probably has a better number on existing plant costs, but, I don't even think we've fully vetted relocation of field operations at this time. And so we're at the stage where if we looked at the timeline, we've hired an owner's advisor, which is helping us to develop the project plan and evaluate like the growth projections and the type of treatment process we're gonna need. But consideration of costs will come in the next 12 months when we get a contractor and a designer on board and we begin a progressive design build process. Because that's when we really look at optionality and configurations and what they mean in terms of delta. In general, I can't put a number on it, but I can estimate that it will cost a lot more just because there's,
a lot more.
well,
Because
you have to demo existing
Yeah.
facilities.
Hold on a second.
Yeah,
And the reason I'm asking this is you're having to negotiate this particular site, which has been quite a long time,
yes,
right? And so if I'm negotiating and I'm saying, well, yeah, it's easier to do it here, but do I understand theoretically what the delta potentially would be in cost and what that cost driver would be to the residents in terms of fees and services, right? That's a very important argument when you're speaking about not only about the ease of and my connections are right here, but here's the delta and how is that going to be paid? And is it going to affect the rates to the public as well? Right? So those are very important points when we're talking about the why as well. And that's why I'm asking the question.
And that's a great question. I would say generally, because we don't really know. 50 Solano is vacant, it's set up, they can take it, we can estimate cost there. There are no other sites the size of 50 Solano to move to, like at all. So then it changes the whole design and how you actually do it, because if you say that there's a site that's 2 acres, how do you make that work? It's farther away, and you make that work, and then where do you put all the construction and everything else? I would just rough ballpark, and it's gotta be 25 to 50% more right off the bat. The other big thing is timing. Without the site known, it increases the timing significantly, because there's no idea if there's other things that have to happen, or legal issues, things like that. It's gonna take a long time, a lot longer, okay?
And so what I'm really asking for is a more concrete argument about the why, because it has to be negotiated, right? And so here are all the pros and here are all the cons. If the site isn't given and it isn't available, here's the impact to community. Because that's ultimately what's important as well in the decision-making, right? Through the process. So what is the full picture versus this is the largest site, it's easier here. What are the other impacts to the broader community and to the way that we do our work and the cost points of the work as well? And that's just food for thought.
yeah. I appreciate the question. I feel like we have made those considerations and further, we've considered the cost implications of on-site 50 Solano development within the current rate structure, which was absolutely in consideration with the community's impacts and the rate structure that we've provides adequate funding to pay for those things and to pay for the new debt that will be required to build these facilities where we have them. any additional costs that go beyond what we've planned for would do exactly what you're saying. They would require a second rate increase that the public would have to bear. So I think in the same line of thinking, locating elsewhere would impact the community's costs in a greater way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're just putting this on the record.
Yeah,
That's what I'm doing.
thank you.
That's why I'm asking the questions. Thank you. Any more questions, from the board? No? Okay.
Okay. And just for clarity, these conversations have started or began 6 years ago or 8 years ago.
It's been, yeah.
Like, when
I
was
have
the
to go
first
back.
contact?
Yeah, I mean, right when the auctioneer left, which is, it's got, I mean, time goes by so fast, but it was over 6 years ago.
Overseas. And then we still have, and there's a timeline or a deadline that we have to meet regardless of what's happening with the 50 Swaddle property.
Yeah, and Natalie could probably speak on that if you're interested, because we have to get to permit compliance by 2034, which means operation compliant.
Correct.
And she can kind of speak to the length of the construction window. Not putting you on the spot.
I mean, I think we're looking with the progressive design build option, it gives us a little bit of a quicker timeline because sometimes the design can happen simultaneously with some of the construction. So that's one of the benefits of that progressive design build. So we're looking at maybe like a 4 or 5 year design / construction time frame. But that gives us a couple of years for making sure that we're, because this is not gonna be a system where we can just press the starting button and then have everything work perfectly. There's gonna be some troubleshooting, we're gonna be tweaking things, we're gonna train up our operators. So there's definitely gonna be some time that we're gonna need to make sure that we're operating smoothly by the permit compliance deadline. So I think, I can't remember if it was 5 years or, I'd have to go back and look at my schedule, but it was for the construction / design timeframe, it's like 5 or 6 years.
Okay, because, and if looking at time now, we have roughly 8 years
Mhm.
remaining.
Right.
So we need to get moving within the next 1 to, well, months at this point, 6 to.
Right.
And if I
18
can
months.
mention, we also have environmental permitting to do, you've gotta do financing in order to get there. That financing has a long lead time, especially if we do something like an SRF loan, which takes a year to get, you've gotta get on the intended use list. And there are a series of steps that are preliminary to even any of this stuff. And so at this time, I think we would see it as buffer property as an acquisition until such time as we had all these things lined up. And our other options, there is very little land that is zoned appropriately for this. So if there were other physical options that were large enough, you would also be looking at acquisition costs, entitlement costs, changing zoning and general plan. You would have to look at relocating existing businesses, which is disruptive to the economy of Vallejo as well. So this is the least impactful alternative that we've looked at. It's all in one place. So I just want to mention, at least some of those considerations have been put on the table before, but because they are so disruptive in comparison to a vacant lot, those have not been outmodeled. Because it's really a comparison of this much sort of cost and impact to this much cost and impact. And the real question is, when you ask about the delta, that delta could be very significant depending on how far away it is, how, you know, how much business is on these other properties, how much time it would take to entitle, et cetera. There's just so many more variables. There are far fewer variables at 50 Solana, and it's hydraulically optimal. Did I misstate any of that?
No, that's all true. I was just thinking that the most critical challenge to our timeline right now is land surety. Like, where are we going to put this? Because that will impact how much the design build team also considers into their bid for our maximum guaranteed price for delivery. And all those considerations will go into that negotiation, which we intend to start this year with that. So, while we could work it out later, it will assuredly cost us more if they plan for one thing and then moved in another direction later. So it's a critical decision, milestone for us.
Thank you for just laying out the timeline, what has went into it, and the next steps.
So one of the things that my question again was simply just as others putting it on the record again, right? It's important. And then additionally with that is what does the Gantt chart look like in terms of meeting the deadline? Meeting all of the additional requirements against obtaining potential land. I think that's very important. Because that's part of the preview of what the board is considering and looking at and understanding from the water board's perspective, what is our role and our duty to help us all move forward. So thank you. So seeing that there are no more questions, then say that we can now close this item. And no action is required. Thank you both for the presentation and responding. And so it has been agreed that we will take agenda item 5.4.
Yes.
Andrea kept me in the loop very well. Thank you.
Thank you. And for this one, we will have Claire Collins will provide a report on this one.
So you'll recall that last September, the board authorized the creation of a committee in order to avoid conflicts in connection with these types of negotiations between the city and the district with respect to two sets of properties, 50 Solano and the railroad parcels. I don't have that on screen, but the railroad parcels that border this plant right now and which are vacant. They no longer have railroad tracks on them, but they did at one time in their own by the city. So the board had authorized a committee that is currently made of Vice President Soares and Trustee James and Trustee Gordon to constitute a separate organization to make decisions on these parcels for the purpose of acquisition in order to avoid any conflicts with the city. Because we are now getting close to finalizing terms on the railroad parcels with the city, we've transmitted a proposed purchase and sale agreement to the city attorney with a form of deed and other documents necessary to consummate the deal. That is all subject to final approval by the district. But in order to work through all of those things formally, we really need a resolution. So we did an approval that's in the minutes, but we would like to adopt a specific resolution that would be part of the record. It would identify what that committee's specific duties are, makes it very clear. So the resolution that's before you tonight identifies the scope or the extent of the scope of the delegated duties to this committee. So what you'll see is it's limited to acquisitions and dispositions on these two property types. If you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them, but the intention here was to create more formality around that delegation of authority. So that then that committee can meet and give direction on final negotiations and acquisition. If the city agrees to make those parcels available for sale.
So thank you for the presentation. Mr. Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to make public comment?
It's gonna be second, Vice President.
And do we have anyone on the board that would like to make any comments? Yes.
I just have a quick clarifying question for our legal counsel. So, everything was sounding great until you said we wanted to find these property types. So I just want to clarify with you. This committee is only, just to get things on the record,
Yep.
we're all talking the same language. This committee is only, making decisions potentially on this board we have around 50 Solano and those railroad parcels. That's it, right?
Yes, sir. And if I can just direct you to page 97 of 98, if they're listed in item B, and it literally says, it names these two trustees as well, but it was to real property acquisition and disposition involving the following city-owned property adjacent to the district wastewater treatment plant. 50 Solano and 3 railroad right-of-way parcels, and then they're described by their parcel numbers.
Excellent.
Very limited.
Thanks.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So I do see that you have our names on the particular page of 96, but in 97, you don't have our names.
May I direct your attention
Just in case I'm blind,
to recital B?
I see it now. Thank you so much. I just need to highlight it. Thank you. You see why I have a highlighter? Thank you.
Are there any other comments by the board members?
Thank you for clarifying that though, because we were very confused, and so I'm glad that we clarified that.
And we also just want to make sure it's very clear for the record, and so, again, we're happy to make any edits here, but we think this was the intention of the board, and we just wanted to make it very explicit.
Thank you.
So, seeing there's no more discussion, we will take action on this item. Vice President, could you?
Sure, I'll move that we adopt resolution 2026-6171, formally delegating authority for real estate acquisition and disposition to the board's real property committee, property owned by the city of Holyoke.
Thank you. And Mr. Clerk, would you please take roll?
Trustee James,
Aye.
trustee Matias,
Yes.
trustee Gordon,
Yes.
trustee Matula, Secretary Matula,
Aye.
vice president Source,
Yes.
and president Liddell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
So we will go back. Okay. Let's get that.
Yeah, we just.
Five, two, right?
Okay, so we're back to 5.2. We're back on track.
Right. So yeah, 5.2, so this is, trustee Matias had asked, just an update on White Slough. And the district's involvement in that, so I wanted to provide this update. There's no policy discussion or decisions being made. This is information, for the board. So White Slough, I assume you all know, what it is, where it is. White Slough is part of the Napa Marsh and provides habitat for many birds. The American Bird Conservancy has designated it as a globally important bird area. That's a huge, or has the potential to be a very big bird area. Originally, this was a meandering stream. It kind of meandered through. There was a levee that breached eventually, and it allowed all of the ocean water in it. Some of the old reports actually say there was an airport landing strip there as well. So this is a very environmentally sensitive area with opportunity for bird watching. White Slough is not under the district's jurisdiction. This is not in the district's jurisdiction at all. But what's there now? So and this is the part that's frustrated just about everybody. Everybody's very frustrated with all the homeless activity that's there. It's been a primary for encampments. They've been there for many, many years, but there's kind of been an explosion over the past probably 3 to 5 years. I took this picture 2 years ago, and I don't think it's gotten much better. This has frustrated property owners. The district has property nearby. So there's certainly been, as we had about a year ago, there was damage to one of our facilities, another homeless encampment that was close by. The two primary concerns for the district are the increased costs, risk, and then the overall harm to the environment. So the issues that we wanted to update, and Justin can come up as well, is the cleanup of White Slough. We're working with the city, the community effort for cleanup, which I believe is this. And then to prevent kind of the stop of auctioning properties in White Slough that seems to be causing some problems. And then the San Pablo Bay National Wildlife Refuge Act. So to talk about that, those are some of the updates and the things that the district has been working on. I'll turn it over to Jen Keating, our field operations director, who is our kind of our homeless czar, that basically interacts with the city to provide support as we did in other cleanups. Justin, if you can talk about the first item.
Yeah, so my name is Justin Keating, Director of Field Operations. Just like Mark said, the field operations role here at the district is the services outside of the treatment plant. So all the facilities that are out near this area, the field operations crews are going to be the ones that are having to deal with the security issues that come with the homeless camps being there. So along with that comes fencing, damaged facilities, all that everything that kind of falls under that umbrella. This isn't the only camp that's been in this area, as I'm sure you all have known over the last several years. The previous camps that have been in this location, there was the one that was on state property, which is right next to the overpass, and then there was another camp. If some of you may remember back in 2020, on the other side of the freeway, there was another large encampment over there. So over time, those camps were, basically allowed to exist. And with the role that the district plays in these types of incidents is that we provide support. We have a very limited equipment and resources to be able to address like a large scale homeless camp like this. So when there ends up being enough steam that's built behind usually county and city resources, district crews will get involved with our resources and have participated in every cleanup that's taken place out near the White Slough and Austin Creek. Nothing has changed with this specific incident going on at the private property spit out on White Slough. We have pledged our support to the city of Vallejo, so they have several hurdles that they have to get through in order to be able to come on to these private property parcels to resolve the homeless camp issue. And when they get those resolved, the field operations crews are ready to respond and provide assistance.
Thank you, Justin. The second item, the community effort. So Trustee Palmeris had called us about this, had asked about us providing some support and help, but we haven't heard anything else since. So there's nothing that we're doing to support this.
Correct.
I don't know if you've all seen that. Sure.
Yeah.
Anybody else wants some?
No, I'm very much aware of it.
So we're not really familiar with what's happening there. We try to get some information on where it's actually locating, any access issues they need help with us or anything, but we haven't heard anything.
So, the president of the public comment. Oh. So thank you. Do we have any public comment?
No, for this item,
So I'll turn it over to the board and I'll start with Trustee Jones.
No, thank you, President. So with this cleanup, it's a community effort cleanup because the city of Vallejo did not respond to inquiries over several months. The first inquiry was emailed back in October about possible cleanup and collaboration at White Slough. After there was at a board of supervisor meeting, there was an inquiry about the East Vallejo Fire District having to be called multiple times to address issues at White Slough. Since that meeting, I sent an email to the city of Vallejo, which was not answered for several months. And the board, the flood and wastewater general manager and council was gracious enough to sit down with me to go over the maps, what was taking place at White Slough and how it impacts the district, which is next to our largest pump. So from there, there's been conversations with community groups, with the SIAT team, which is the Street Intervention Outreach Team, that does frequent outreach to various encampments throughout the city when they're not moved, to see how can we collaborate together in order to get some movement on it, with the focus on protecting the largest pump because it will impact the city overall. So with the cleanup, there are several organizations, including the Vallejo Homeless Union, including Vallejo Together, some long-time staples within the city of Vallejo where they pulled a meeting together. And they invited various community partners. So that group wants to look at the slough as a whole, from behind Smart and Final to the side of the dentist office, where on Redwood, and then also where the island is. So that's where this cleanup came about was from the community. And where, I and then others came in was if we could provide additional resources or help to those who are living there. And that's where the SIOP team again comes into place because, you have the chair of the continuum of care who can do the coordinated entry, making sure that HMIS, which is the management system, they could input and update their information into HMIS. And there was an additional conversation with the countywide navigation center, which is housed at Beck Street in Fairfield. And they graciously provided 10 additional beds in conjunction with the cleanup that will be taking place this Saturday. But this is a multi-phase, multi-month ongoing project. And again, the city of Vallejo has not been involved in this, and that group did get the permission of the owners.
Okay.
So nobody is going there illegally.
Okay, so your access is mainly, it sounds like more on the Redwood Sonoma side.
And Redwood Sonoma, yeah, and then just the Sacramento side where that's where you get the state, the city, and then the district owns a sliver, from my understanding.
Okay. The other thing that, Supervisor James, Trustee James, we did talk, and one of the other things that we provided, which was the ownership of White Slough. And this gets into what I'm labeled as the county parcel, although I found out yesterday, trying to prevent the auctioning off of these properties. Because what's been happening over time is these properties get auctioned off, and then the new owner comes in and they think they can develop it or do something with it. And then they're kind of stuck with these costs. And so somehow we were trying to look to, is there some way that this could be prevented, or the county could keep it, or the city could take it, or the federal government could take it. So that was the other thing that we started to look at was looking at the San Paulo, I lost our.
And then jumping to that point, I did follow up with the county administrator, like requested, and it will be scheduled for auction due to rules and regulations. It will be scheduled for auction. We could share those dates once we get the specific dates. And if it's not auctioned off at the first date, then it will be relisted. And then if it goes unsold, then it could be removed from the list. But I can share those dates once we get concrete dates.
This is, so the district property is adjacent, so the Austin Creek is a district property. The one, this upper part here is the pump station, that we were talking about, and this is, there's a tank right here, and then we own this property as well. Those are our properties. What we were looking at when we, Director Tucker and I, we were in Washington DC twice. Met with Congressman Garamendi talking about the San Pablo Bay National Wildlife Refuge Boundary Modification Act. And our goal in that was to try to add White Slough to this act. Originally, it came to the city council, was talking about the preserve. We were petitioning to him and with our lobbyists to see if we could get White Slough added, and we contacted the city as well to say, hey, can we get White Slough added? One of the reasons it wasn't added initially is because there's private property on there, and they will not condemn private property. So if there's willing sellers, if this all became, public property, then it is something that could move forward. Our hope, and however we can push it is, the federal government will take it, state government will take it, county government will take it, something to own this property so it's not in private ownership, because private ownership seems to be causing problems. And that's all I had on this.
Through the chair. Being that we're representing both city and trustees as a residents, what
So can
correction?
you clarify what you mean by that?
Well,
Because,
that's what I'm asking. I'm asking because I'm not sure exactly how to word it.
okay,
But we do know factual to why the city hasn't.
so here today, we're representing,
So I'm asking you, because there was some information that was just stated that may not be accurate. And so I just want to find out how can we clarify that without
so I'll defer to our attorney.
I was not sure what.
So what is being asserted is there's a belief that what has been stated, some of the information is not accurate.
So, I suppose if you've got knowledge about that, we wanna know, but this is the information that we've received as staff, about the location, so.
Oh, no, not about the location, something regarding to the city not responding, and there's a reasoning for that.
You guys part of cleanup or something?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's, yeah, we don't, I mean, we, as Justin talked about, the city's response as far as cleanup, we follow the lead.
No, okay, just wanna make sure, there was some clarifying that we know to what's moving forward.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering, how do that information get corrected? Just have our staff respond to it, or how does that go?
So Justin worked with Natalie Peterson directly, so, I mean, if she has information from the city, I'm sure she'll provide that to Justin.
They're probably through Veronica.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
May I just make one point? I'm sorry, can we back up and show where we own? I just wanna make a point because I did have a discussion with the city attorney at one point about this. So the parcel that we own, I just wanna be really clear. So we own a pumping plant, we own a tank that's covered with a solar area, we have a empty lot here, and then there's a berm. The levee that runs along here. And I just wanna be really clear because I got an earful from the city attorney, because we were involved in a lawsuit at one point where the city sued us. You'll notice that the homeless encampment is not on our property.
Right.
And I just wanna be very clear, and I wanna acknowledge that Justin's worked really hard to make sure that we do not have homeless encampments on the district's property. And so we were really not part of that. We've kept them off, we've kept this area clear. This is all on that private property parcel or the one that's tax defaulted. So to the extent that you hear any information about
Well,
that.
that's not what I was
I
saying.
understand, I just wanna make it clear for the board that the district has been keeping its side of the road clean, so to speak, the entire time, and I just wanna acknowledge that, I know that hasn't been easy. Because there is pollution, you know, we had bad stuff sort of in this waterway, but I just wanna, again, point out what we do own and what we do have control over is really just this parcel, and that's it.
Just for clarification, just wanted to about the cleanup code, that was about White Slough itself, not anything to do with the flood waterways.
And just a
Thank you.
huge thank you to the county provides us a ton of support,
Yeah,
so we really appreciate it.
Mhm. So thank you. So do we have any more questions from the board on this issue?
I have a question, but I don't even know if there'll be an answer to it, and I think it goes back to what staff believes its responsibility is as it relates to this encampment.
That's what it's like.
And so what I'm hearing from council right now is, you know, we own the pump station. We're keeping our side of the road clean. I think did you guys put some boulders down? Was that you or was that the city?
So,
that was us.
and the city.
Okay.
So one moment, please. So trustee Matias asked the floor, and then I'm more than happy to give you the floor once he.
Oh, no, I was just happy.
Okay, but-
then.
Go ahead.
So, you guys put those boulders down, you kind of kept your side of the road clear, but, when it comes to homeless encampments, when it comes to the environment, because I know there's been some environmental concerns, what is your response to those environmental concerns? And I know you referenced the that long act,
Right.
sorry, the Pablo long act. But like, part of the concern I have here is that this is very much becoming a like city, district, county, when in reality it should be a state and federal issue, given all the different issues you have going on here. And so I didn't hear as much from you guys when it came to the environmental impact that this has, and perhaps other impacts that this may be having on the properties and that you do own. And so can you speak more to that, or perhaps additional tools that may be available to you just for our own edification? Because I don't know. And yet I hear about the Vallejo Flood and Wastewater District too often when it comes to the White Slough. I'm just gonna leave it there. So I just wanna understand and also put it on the record. What is available to this board in terms of actions we could take, and what is your position in relation to what's occurring on these private properties and given their proximity to equipment and land that you own or that we own. So I know there's like 3 or 4 different questions in there, but I just want to tease that out a little bit more because I want to make sure we get some clarity and we're on the same page.
I mean, the definite, from the environmental perspective, are very concerned, have always been. I mean, there's a lot of things we do with coastal cleanups, a lot of things to clean up. We do a huge part of that, cleanups all over the place. In fact, going into the site, we have like $1 million trash capture device that removes all the trash from the city coming down before it gets to White Slough. So those are some of our requirements or regulations that we have to do. What we're not responsible for is cleanups, especially homeless cleanups that aren't our, White Slough is not on our property. We really have no authority to clean up a homeless camp. So we basically petition the city and others to say, this is a problem, just like the citizens is a problem. How can we help you clean this up? What can we do? So we're not in the driver's seat in this. We look to the city to basically do something about this.
Okay, so let me then go off of your lovely president. Another statement you made, which was, we want to stop and prevent the auctioning of these private properties. So, I don't know what the cost of these properties is, but would the wastewater district be in a position to acquire them to then put us in a position to go to Congressman Garamendi and say this needs to be passed over to the feds? Or is that something that you can, hold on, let me just finish. Is the district able to do something like that? And are you choosing not to because you believe the city of Vallejo should be doing it?
So it's a great question. It's something that we've talked about. It's like, how can we best support this, but how can we best help? And certainly options, we've talked to Claire, like, is there something we could do? What can we do? Where it's very clear what our responsibilities are, and it's stormwater and it's sewer. Buying land to prevent homeless from camping on it is not in our jurisdiction at all. So if our goal is to buy land so we can keep homeless off, it's not our jurisdiction. I mean, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't work for us as a district. Because we're not responsible for homeless encampments. Because what you're asking for is what the board would be doing. It's like, okay, we're gonna buy this property so we can manage the homeless population there and keep them on. And so that way we can keep White Slough clean.
So I guess my question to you is, then why are you asking Congressman Garamendi to add the White Slough to the act if it's not your land? I mean, you
right.
have,
Yeah.
Why are you investing staff time and effort into that?
So we,
if not to help out with that issue?
well, because of the cost to us. I mean, the cost and the risk to us as far as to our facilities. And while we're, talking to Mayor Garamendi also about Mare Island and all these issues, we try to bring up issues that we know this is something that he sponsored. And as we looked at it, we said, hey, here's an opportunity here that potentially the federal government could add this in and take control of it. And if the federal government took control of it, then they could add more of these environmentally friendly activities there and take care of the homeless. So it was a way of kind of looking outside the box. It's like, what else can we do? Because we're very limited in what we can do. Is there somehow we can convince somebody else to take care of this? And we, like I said, we did talk to the city as well.
And then one final question and then I'm done. So do you have a sense of how much in dollars you're collectively spending on field operations and on supporting like homeless prevention, cleanups? You could put it under that whole umbrella. What's the total cost of the district right now on an annual basis to support that?
I don't have that number right now off the top of my head.
I can tell you that in the last fiscal year, we budgeted $50,000 for it. I don't know where we are in subsidy.
But that also include that.
But that was all.
That's not gonna include the
That's also
damage and
included.
fire and all that other stuff that happened, which was a result of homeless activity.
That also included vandalism as well, not just homeless.
Yeah, and I think the reason why I'm elevating that is because, I think you made I'm gonna just go out on the limb. you made perhaps an assumption that I was suggesting that we acquire those properties so that we can make your team be responsible for homeless prevention on that property. I wasn't asking that. I think as a trustee, if I'm seeing that you guys are spending 60, 70, 80, $100,000, $200,000 doing the same thing every single year, and all we gotta do is spend, $5,000 to get 2 or 3 parcels and then hand them off to the federal government, that's a much easier process that will bring a reward and relief to the district than engaging in the same runaround that we've been engaging in for several years. So I do wanna just challenge the approach here, cause I don't necessarily feel, and I'm just wearing my wastewater district hat on, that this is the most cost efficient and also responsible way to deal with this, even from an environmental standpoint, because that's one of the things I'm most concerned with. I have a lot of experience in the environment, with the environment and working on environmental issues. And that's not even really being talked about enough, in my opinion. So just gonna leave that comment there. And I also want to thank you for elevating the item and providing an update, because I will tell you, I've been sitting here for 14 months and I've heard about the wastewater district, I don't know how many times, and I'm just like, I don't know what role you guys are playing in this and if whether or not you have responsibility in any of this. So it was helpful from an edification standpoint, but I think that area is something, that point I just made is something that I have a concern around.
To the chair, can we go back to, the slide that shows who owns what? So does any of that from your research shows what the city owns?
City,
Or just shows what we see is what it is?
correct, the city does, I don't think
I
the
don't
city,
believe it or not.
anyone owns anything he wants to.
And when we see private, is that where the white food is at?
So the
Of the issue of the
private are
homelessness?
individuals, individual owners, so all the private are individual owners.
And where it says county question mark, that's the one that's in tax default status that the county is auctioning off.
Okay, and where it says private through the legal clear, that means there's a liability if anybody goes on that property, without proper.
It would be trespass for sure, but also the property owner has responsibility for the condition of the property. And my understanding from the city attorney was that, I mean, they've tried to clean it up using the tools at the city attorney's disposal. The city has much broader powers than again, the wastewater district only has powers over.
No, I was just asking, so
Yeah,
if,
so-
I was referring to yourself, if you was to go on the property trying to clean up on your own, there would there be
Without
liability?
permission,
Yeah,
without permission, it would technically be trespass.
thank you, that's all I'm doing, thank you, appreciate that.
So, anyone else on the board have a question? So my last question, perhaps, again, we can bring this item back on the agenda if the board so has a will to do so. Because I'd like to hear from a legal perspective what it means as it relates to the suggestion or through the inquiry that Trustee Matias brought forward about potentially owning the land. And the reality is anybody could own the land, to be very frank, but from a legal perspective for this organization to even consider purchasing the land and then asking for the federal government to take it or the state government to take it. What does that really look like and what does it mean from a district perspective? Because this is a special district, to be very frank about it. And the powers of special district looks nothing like a city, county, or state or federal government. And it really would be incumbent upon what kind of relationship and response could be brokered by the federal government or with the federal government or with the state. And it doesn't mean that it's, from another perspective, who else are the partners in this process? So you don't need, I don't want you
I just have a
to
question.
opine on it.
No, I
I'm
just have a
just
question.
curious.
And truly, I guess, if I could understand a little bit better, what is the city or the county or the state or federal government would be just as similar position of buying that property as we would, so
Yes.
I'm not. I wanna be responsive to the request, but I'm not sure what, first of all, I will research, but whether or not it's even really legally permissible or give to public funds, that's really the primary question.
Exactly.
But then the second question is the removal of the homeless encampment is really not something that,
So I'm not even,
That's
so Claire, hold on.
and I'm just trying to understand like where I would go,
So keep it very simple and pure,
okay,
not talking about what's happening on the property at this moment,
okay.
right? From a perspective of, are we being, as a, you know, as the special district, are we being responsible for the unhoused on the property? But more from a perspective of, if this organization, special district, were to purchase that land, what does that mean legally? And what would be the process or the appetite for the federal government or the state to actually include it into the San Pablo Bay,
Refuge Act.
right? So what would that look like? And in addition to that, what steps would even be necessary to take to even see that possibility?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I just say something? And again, thank you, President, for sort of formulating the ask. I think these questions are important for us to consider and be able to understand. And at the same time, without me venturing into the other role, like, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I'm responsibly trying to deal with homelessness in the city of Vallejo. I'm not bucking the ball or any of that. You guys can watch the meetings. But at the same time, I do want to understand what's available for each of the different agencies. Because it doesn't make sense for us to keep doing the same thing every single year expecting a different result. It's not working for anyone involved. So it would be helpful to just explore that question. And then sort of leave it up to the trustees to explore what a collaborative framework looks like, you know, as we engage state and federal officials, which is what you were doing, you know, going out to DC. We want to answer that question, but we can't do that without the information.
And I can provide an update. The auction date is May 5th through 7th. And there is a collaborative effort taking place. And outside of this meeting, we can, an email can be sent again to the homeless coordinator and to council about what's taking place with the different agencies at the table.
Thank you.
To adjourn, Rocket, could it be sent to me as well?
It'll be sent to everyone.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions by the board? Okay, seeing that there are no more questions by the board, I will now close this, and this presentation does not require any action. So we now can move on to the next item. General Manager Tom Coat, would you please announce this item, which is our fourth item?
Absolutely, and we may have public here to speak. So this is, so at the last meeting, we had talked about agendizing this to look at two specific issues. One of which was the looking about creating a committee or designating a point person on behalf of the district from among the board members to talk about Mare Island. And then the second one was a plan for addressing increasing operational costs and strategic leverage on Mare Island. I don't know when you want to do public comment before or after.
Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment?
Yes, Madam President, we have a member of the public, I already responded to Moses, Sherry Ann. Would you mind, setting up and, state your name for the record, your name for the record?
My name is Sherry, my grandma and I live on Mare Island. And I didn't really know, and I don't really know a lot more about this item, so I don't have prepared comments. But when I saw it, I wanted to say a couple of things, and that is, I've been trying to deal with the 6A channel that runs behind my house for many, many years. We started trying to get it addressed in 2015. And, we're making little baby step progress, but not enough. And, today, because of the rainstorm, the flooding on the fire road was much worse than it's actually been in the past. In fact, the whole road looked pretty flooded behind my house. And that was just 2 storms. It wasn't like a, big serious rainy season like we have sometimes. So I wanted to say a couple of things, and one is, over the years, I've talked to Mark and his staff, but mostly Mark, several times, and it was clear at some point that it wasn't his issue. But I wanna just commend him and tell him how it feels as a member of the public to be treated respectfully, to have him respond to inquiries and to questions. He actually submitted in 2023 an entire list of helpful ways we could address the problem in the short term that I forwarded to the city, and unfortunately, nothing ever happened. But it's a really refreshing experience to work with this staff and the wastewater district, even if we haven't been able to get resolution. And the other thing I wanted to say is that we as residents really have not had, I think in the past and currently, very solid communication around the many, many issues that affect us on Mare Island. And one of the things that was important to us as a community is that our representative Charles, and we also met with the mayor, to ask for better representation, and especially better representation as we go forward on the whole Mare Island project and where it stands, because we get mixed messages, we get no messages. We find out that the bridge is closed for 2 days by getting there and realizing that both ways are closed. And it just seems like it's an ongoing battle. And I don't know if it's because we're just 300 homes and we're easily overlooked, but the maritime plan came out this week and we had no idea that was happening. Nobody spoke to us. We're stakeholders and yet we're not in there anywhere. And it's a very extensive report that would have impact on us at some point and interfaces with the specific plan in a way that's hard for us to understand at this point. So just as a courtesy, I mean, I'm not saying we have any decision making, but just the courtesy of meeting with us and letting us know what's being discussed and what kinds of implications it could have for the island. So I'm not sure what kind of subcommittee that you want or you're looking for, but the other thing I would say is I would hope a point person from the Vallejo wastewater district, like Mark, one of the staff, is the point person or the people that are talking, because as we've talked over the years, and we specifically met recently just on infrastructure, it became clear that he isn't at the table. And that was troubling to most of the residents, well, I would speak for all of us, all the residents that were there. Because we would think the people that have expertise are at the meetings. I mean, we're never gonna get anywhere. And it also wasn't clear that he was at the table during the North Mare Island negotiations. And if somebody had been, then there would have been transition between Lennar being responsible for 6A channel and Mare Island Company being responsible for 6A channel. And as it stands, the city's gonna have to be responsible now because it's their property and no one ever followed through on many, many recommendations that have existed since 2011 when they accepted our neighborhood temporarily.
We are at time, and I understand you can choose to extend the time if you'd like to.
I'll extend the time, thank you.
I'm pretty much done. Those are,
Sorry, I didn't think we were at time.
I'm sorry, I should prepare, but I didn't know what to prepare because I didn't really know the topic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, do we have any more public comments?
We do not online and not in person. We don't have any more.
So, from the board, do we have any comments or thoughts?
Yeah.
I do have a presentation, so I don't know.
Oh,
if I-
okay.
Oh, we should have done that.
Oh,
So
well,
let me go through the presentation real quick. So the.
I thought you were done, so.
Oh, no, I was
Oh.
I apologize, I was introducing
I
it.
was like, okay.
I mean, it's ironic, with Trustee Matias, I mean, kind of the bulk of this presentation is, you know, doing the same thing and expecting a different result. I think that's what I'm gonna cover on this. It seems like we do the same thing and expect a different result.
My apologies. You ready?
Alright. So, Marion, what is the issue with Marion, for us? And Mare Island infrastructure continues to deteriorate faster than the pace of improvement. It was well known, this report, Mare Island Utilities Operations and Maintenance Capital Plan, Maris did it, 1997. It was well known the infrastructure was very poor shape, when the Navy left it. It had a whole plan on what to do, very poor shape. We're all frustrated. I think the reason that we keep talking here about it is you're frustrated as city council members, you're frustrated here, we're frustrated. But, you know, what the district can do, we don't have a lot of power in this. So why the infrastructure is a problem, well, it was in poor condition in 1996, and over the past 25 years, the city has brought in developers to develop the island. First it was Lennar. Lennar came in with a whole plan to build all this infrastructure. There was a certain dollar amount that Sherry brings up in all the council meetings, I think it was 200 or something. She brings it up in the council meetings, that how expensive this was gonna be to build all this infrastructure. Didn't happen. So the city went back out and they brought in Mare Island Company, brought in another developer to try to do the same thing, to redo this, to build more infrastructure. Let's get this infrastructure done, let's build Connolly Quarter and make development happen. Great ideas. It hasn't happened again. So now we're 6 years, 7 years, 8 years with Mare Island Company, and the infrastructure is not moving very fast. So the biggest problem for us is this infrastructure is not moving. It causes more of a burden on the district. The capital investment for the district to put all the infrastructure on there for sewer and storm is probably double our entire budget. It was never the intention that the district was going to pay for all this infrastructure. Maryland accounts for about 5% of our total flow, and their user fees are about 5% of our budget. So this huge infrastructure bill, it would never even make sense if the district could even afford this. But we're a utility. That's all we are. I mean, I hate to say it. I wish I could say we're great. I mean, we're talking to Congressman Garamendi. We're trying to make things happen, trying to get things done with the city. But we're a utility. We're just like city water, island energy, public works. And as Sharon talked about in that plan, we're not involved in it because the development and the strategic plan for that is, what do you want to do with this? And you'll figure out the infrastructure as you move forward. Typically on this, the Mare Island Company and also Lennar was supposed to pay for this infrastructure. That's how it was set up. But what can we do? I mean, so the district, like, we're there. And I don't ever want to get accused that we're not operating the system. We've been operating it actually longer than 25 plus years because we were operating when the Navy was there. We've been taking the Navy's waste since 1974. So we've been making sure everything works, and we are making sure that the residents and everything, that their sewer works, that their storm system works, to making sure as best we can with this old infrastructure to make sure it still works. I have to admit, I don't know how our staff does it. They do an absolutely amazing job. I mean, as you saw in one of the earlier photos, a lot of the old Navy pump stations are in horrible shape, yet we continue to maintain them and try to keep them running. It keeps getting longer and longer. I mean, this was all supposed to be done fairly quickly, and it keeps getting quite a bit longer. So our focus is I&I, inflow and infiltration. As we've had some projects come through forward, as some of the tenants have moved into the mansions, things like that, what we find is that the roof leaders, connections, they go straight to the sewer system. So that first picture that kind of shows the pipe going, that's inflow. So there's direct connections to the sewer system that are bringing in all this excess flow. That's something as another private property owner, Toro University, we have an agreement with them on how they're going to correct this. The other part is the infiltration. There's all these cracked pipes, old pipes. As I think We were talking about some of the pipes in the report, there's corrugated metal pipe, which you would never use in a sewer system that the Navy used. And they're obviously probably not there. So what did we do? We went to Congressman Garamendi, we asked for an appropriation. And we asked for, with Padilla, also Ship, asked for those appropriation, asked for money. Say, hey, we're left with this Navy infrastructure, what can we do? How do we take care of this I&I problem so we can help with the economic development? So we got $1 million. And so we're gonna take that $1 million and we're gonna look at the I&I problem, see if we can make sure that we can keep this system running so we can treat the wastewater and try to reduce some of that I&I into the system. And we're gonna continue to look for money. So to me, as we looked at this, I'm not really clear, and I kind of need some help, and I'm asking this question of this board is, why do we need a point person? Why is a committee needed? I mean, the issues that we're dealing with are technical issues. I mean, nothing against the board members, but we can handle the technical issues as far as running the system. We can deal with that. And that's what our role is. We're usually to do that. Where we need support is to modernize the infrastructure by the developer. The developer needs to modernize the infrastructure, not the district ratepayers. Like I said, if you were to double our budget, it would barely cover the cost of all this stuff. And it's not the ratepayers' responsibility to pay for all the infrastructure on their end. Development pays for development. I mean, that's the bottom line. So what I'm asking you is to really be clear as far as why a point person is needed, why we need a committee, and then, yeah, how best we can help out and work together. I'm just running the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Clear and concise. Any comments from the board?
Yeah. I'll start. So I thought about this a lot after the last meeting. I had kind of a similar reaction and thought a lot about the different roles and responsibilities of the agencies as well as the staff and the board members. And it's unfortunate that Trustee Palmares isn't here. The last time I spoke with him, he and I were very much on the same page, but I can't speak for him now. We have to ask him later. Fundamentally, what occurred, I think, when the four of us that took office last January took office, what we heard was that this thing was completely stalled, completely stagnant, and that frankly, the city was not meeting with VFWD, had left VFWD out of a lot of the conversations. Mare Island Company wasn't meeting with VFWD, and I was getting the sense that VFWD was getting scapegoated for the lack of progress on Connolly Corridor, which, I mean, I'm wearing this hat tonight. I don't think that's fair, regardless of which hat I'm wearing. I mean, I don't think that's a fair characterization of the situation. And so one of the things that I did, along with Trustee Palmares, is we started by getting together VFWD staff and Mare Island Company and said, hey, is this true about the Connolly proposal? Is there really a technical engineering issue, and what would it take to get, the engineering? Basically using our position as the representatives of Mare Island to convene the stakeholders that hadn't been meeting and get them talking. And the conversations went great. Tracy met with Dustin, who's Mare Island Company's engineer, and they got a reimbursement agreement, went out and proceeded. So the technical stuff was handled by the staff. The convening happened from the elected officials. I don't know that meeting would have happened but for the elected officials. Then we attempted to convene the city to talk about the infrastructure plan more broadly, not just the I&I concerns with Connolly. And that was when stuff started getting stuck. We probably 4 or 6 months passed, couldn't get a meeting, finally realized that we needed to recommend the bifurcation of the legal concerns, the ownership concerns from the engineering conversations. Those meetings could move forward, brought that to the city council, and this board, I think both boards took it on, right? Yeah, I think both boards, I'm gonna go ahead and say both boards addressed that. And I will say through this process, again, Trustee Palmares and I have been closest to this. Every single time there has been a need, Mark has come to the table with his staff, and they have done everything that has been asked of them. They have played ball, they have been willing to talk through issues, they've answered every question Mare Island Company's had. I think the relationship between VFWD and Mare Island Company is significantly better than it was when I came into office. I don't know if you guys would agree. I mean, I think there's a much better rapport between the two agencies. There is still the city that is needed to enforce the DDA, move the development forward. There's not a lot that VFW can do at this point until the Connolly proposal comes through. My take on this entire situation is that the convening needs to happen. If elected officials need to convene because the convening isn't happening, it should happen from the elected officials that represent Mare Island on behalf of Mare Island, as we did, which is the mayor, the D4, council member, irrespective of who sits in that seat. The VFWD staff represent VFWD, the city staff represent the city, the elected officials represent the island, the residents, whoever, but not a particular agency. When we start dividing ourselves up as representing certain agencies, that's when we get into problems, and that's when we get into interference. Because Mark knows what he's doing, and Tracy knows what he's doing, and Jeff knows what he's doing. Like, they're handling it. They're just waiting for the city's piece and Mare Island Company's piece. They're doing everything they're supposed to be doing. I don't see any value in adding a point person or subcommittee other than complicate the situation. And we technically have a subcommittee at the city. We have a Mare Island subcommittee, which I included in my list of nominations the past 2 years, which was council, this is outside council, myself and Councilmember Palmares as the representatives from Mare Island, and Councilmember Letterju, who was the third one appointed to that committee. Got some resistance from city staff about where the charter is for that subcommittee and what's going on, and got in some arguments. That committee hasn't met yet. If anything else is injected into this situation, we will run into Brown Act violations that will become more and more complex, that it'll probably undermine the work. So my recommendation and my position is keep it as it is. Mark represents VFWD, city manager or designee represents city, Mark or designee, Mare Island Company's at the table, and the elected officials that represent Mare Island can come in to get information, pass it on to the residents, make sure the residents' concerns are raised at the table, that we identify any issues. I mean, we brought up the CFD at the last meeting. We got a great answer from Mare Island Company on the CFD that we were able to bring right back to the residents. But the agencies are run by the people that lead those agencies. And if any decision needs to be made that needs the board, it'll come back to the board. If a decision is made like engineering, like a reimbursement agreement, y'all make that decision. That's what happened. So I don't see anything to be gained from this, but further complicating the situation and further inflaming tension between all the agencies involved. And I think we risk Brown Act implications, and I think we risk disenfranchising the residents of Mare Island. So that's my position on it.
Are there any other comments from the board?
Well, I do have a question. To the legal counsel. Are you a party to the current DBA that's in place?
Sure.
No, shape, or form?
The district is not a party to the DDA.
Are you a party to any legal agreements in Rhode Island?
When you say you, do you mean VFWD or
Yes.
you mean human? It's, sorry, Trustees.
I think the latter,
It's we
the
right now.
latter would probably be inappropriate.
I'm not, I am not aware of any current development agreements that we have with respect to Mare Island. I will say that the city tried to include, there was something called Exhibit R to the DDA that, several years ago, it's actually when I was brought into this, to work for this agency, was in connection with an exhibit to the DDA that would pertain to VFWD and the sewer system. And there was not adequate consideration for what they were asking for, and the district refused to agree to it. Because it was basically giving up all of the district's rights in exchange for like $150,000 a year, which was not enough to build the system. We were never consulted on that agreement. It was before my time, but we were never consulted on it. It was handed to us, and we were not part of the negotiations. That's the received wisdom that I got when I arrived here. So we were cut out of the negotiations, and we were handed a document that said sign it, and the board opted not to.
And so I guess my final question to you, which I think has probably been answered in other, there's probably no case law around this, but like, where you have a scenario where, you know, a developer has made certain promises or commitments, and those are not being followed on a timely basis. Has there ever been an instance where a special district has taken action to enforce? Because it sounds like right now what I'm hearing from the general manager is this should have been taken care of. It's not. We're having to step in and sort of eat the cost, which exceeds what we're billing ratepayers.
That's an interesting question. So in order to enforce a right, you have to have a right, which is typically found through contract, right? So, I hate to do on the fly legal analysis, but one of the hard parts here is we're really not the enforcer of that contract, it's the city that's the enforcer. We're really just one sort of, we in terms of operating the sewer stormwater systems are really just like one piece of this overall development, right, decision of development agreement that the city as the counterparty would be the enforcer for. I think the question you're raising though is as a third party, theoretically a third party beneficiary, I guess, would we have a way to sort of enforce it? I don't know that there would be. Again, we're not a party to the agreement. We are in some cases a victim of the lack of action. That makes sense, right? We thought that this, if I may, I think we thought that this infrastructure was gonna start being fixed back in 2003, which was 23 years ago. And since that time, I've graduated from law school, gotten married, had a child, sent her off to college and gotten a divorce. A lot has happened in that time period. But what hasn't happened.
Okay, Claire.
Right? No, so when we, as an agency, were expecting years to be done 26 years ago, or 23 years ago, right? And it hasn't happened, so then what's happened, I think, Mark, your first slide was like, the infrastructure has continued to deteriorate while time has gone on, and I just think the expectations of the parties weren't met. I think because the duties of the developer, the developer's feet weren't held to the fire. That's how, at least again, that's how I see it personally, because the expectations of the parties were not fulfilled.
Yeah, I just think that that's, it's really weird to me, and I'm surprised that hasn't been litigated or that someone has looked into that. You talk about 2003, it's 2026. So theoretically, you have a situation right now where if for some reason this doesn't get addressed, you guys have a mediator now, everybody's kumbayaing, right? But if this doesn't get addressed, then, which goes back to the CFD issue, but from another lens. This doesn't get addressed and all of that infrastructure has to be improved, then you would essentially have the entire city subsidizing hundreds of millions of dollars on that island. When in reality, it was the developers who should have improved that and did not. And yet this district doesn't have any authority to say, hey, like,
We don't
not
have that.
okay, not okay. You know, you need to do something because otherwise it's gonna hit the residents. Like, I'm just shocked that hasn't been looked at legally.
So, in my experience, the land use authority, a city or county is typically going to be in charge of that process. And that there will be certain financial assurances posted by the developer in order to make sure that those things happen. And that was not done in this case. So in my experience, I would have expected greater developer assurances before the city entered into a DDA. And the reason why I haven't seen this before is because typically there's a master plan, there's a, dedication of funds. And every city is different, to be quite honest, right? Some cities subsidize this heavily. You see that in the city of San Francisco, for example, but it's not the case here. We're really stuck between a rock, and when I say we, I mean we as a community are stuck between a rock and a hard place. We were given a BRAC site, right, base reuse and, that's not the right terms, but BRAC was the function in the 90s where all these bases were decommissioned and handed over to civilian use. And we didn't know how bad these bases were, right? And so we've seen this all over the country, but especially here in the state of California, we didn't know how bad it was gonna be. We didn't know the conditioning of infrastructure. And it's hard to make really good forward plans when you don't know the situation you're getting yourself into. It's not really fair to say like who did something wrong here. And I'm not trying to, point fingers or cast aspersions, but the hardest part for us as a district is we have limited powers, we have limited resources, and we are constitutionally constrained from subsidizing, having one group of ratepayers subsidize the other. And that is, so that's why I think you probably don't see this as a case law, because you just don't see stuff like this happen very often.
So
President.
I have a question to this very point. While it's true, you're not a party to the DDA, the district is not a party to the DDA. But if the district, from its own finances, is having to do certain things as it relates to infrastructure, to keep infrastructure going, even though you're not the enforcer of the DDA, and it has an adverse impact on residents, on ratepayers, then because your ratepayers, as you say, are not responsible to subsidize for X, Y, and Z. There are rules that govern the ratepayers, how you can charge ratepayers and so forth and on. So once those rules, those regulations are potentially compromised because something is not in play, is not working as intended, that you have no control over, then legally, what is your responsibility or potential recourse to say, I'm going to file a lawsuit. I'm serving you notice that here's what is occurring, here are the negative impacts, and here are, because of these negative impacts, here are the breaches to the regulations or rules, policy that dictate how ratepayers are responsible for X, Y, and Z. So when you look at it from that lens, then what is the responsibility and the ability for the district to do something different as it relates to noticing the prime player in who's responsible for the DDA. Here are the things that are occurring. Here are the impacts to how we do policy, how we do business, and we need you to do X, Y, and Z. You have this much time to do X, Y, and Z. If not, here are the next steps. And I'm speaking about notice, then we move to legal action. Because the other part of this is from a framing of, I'm not sitting in any other seat, I'm sitting in this seat. I'm protecting this agency. So what is the true recourse? I think we need to really look at it from a different lens when we think about the impact of policy, the impact of regulation to ratepayers and our responsibility to ratepayers and what those rules and regulations say we can enforce and put upon a ratepayer. And I think I would like for us to consider that question in that way, from that lens of what can we do? And what has been the impact to ratepayers because the DDA has not been enforced. Certain things have not been laid clearly, and roles and responsibilities are not clear. But the fact of the matter is, it's not the water district's position, it's not the water district's DDA.
Right.
So legally, what is our responsibility from that perspective? I would like to understand that more.
With all due respect, I'm not gonna answer you right now.
No, I don't. With all due respect, I don't want you to answer. It's not a rhetorical question.
Understood.
It is a question to research and come back with a concrete answer. And the fact of the matter is, there may be no precedent,
But maybe we make it.
right? But perhaps we get to make the precedent. And so I don't want you to answer. I just would like for this board to have you consider what I've just stated, adding on to what has been brought forward by Trustee Matias.
I hear you challenging me to think creatively about
Yes.
how we could use legal action potentially to spur some solutions. by
Exactly.
Third parties.
And I recognize that, I don't know if you've started. I don't know if we have collectively agreed upon a mediator, which I have no idea, and that's fine, but this is separate and apart as it relates to the mediator from my perspective. I am talking about the assets of this district and nothing more. And I'm saying, what do the CFR say? What do the water policy legislation require as it relates to this body, as it relates to ratepayers, and as it relates to what we can expect and a legally allowable expect from a ratepayer. So that's where I'm coming from. Yes, trustee Gordon.
Through the chair. So I would like to see if you could please give me a copy of that document that you referred to, the city gave to you, or to the district.
The development and disposition agreement,
Yes.
TDA, and their, the exhibit R, I believe, is that?
Yes,
And we can, I mean, I can point it, it's on the website, it's on the city's website.
I just print it out for me, I appreciate it. And then, my next question would be for clarification. For clarification, the CR, what is CFR? For clarification,
Code of Federal Regulations.
thank you, just wanna make sure. I'm just getting questions, so
Yeah.
they're watching.
No, yeah, federal, sort of federal code.
Thank you.
Can I understand that our attorney has a hard stop.
Yeah, we're getting close to it.
Is it, I don't know what the protocol is, but I'm gonna see if I can do this. Can we take a recess from this particular conversation or item and come back to it and allow our attorney to speak on the next item before she needs to depart? Is that?
Through
would
the
every-
chair, are we able to continue meeting? Are we able to continue the meeting after she leaves, or is she?
Yes, but I don't know if it'll be necessary, you can. You wanted to move, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, to the general manager's report?
To, yes, your general legal counsel.
Yeah, so as part of the general manager report, I'm gonna defer to Claire for the first part as, we don't have, legal counsel as an item anymore, so we defer that to her and before I get to my report.
So, I have a sort of an announcement and a question. Yesterday I was very, I'm gonna use an understatement, dismayed to find out that the city attorney, the city of Vallejo, served the general manager and the president of the board at their homes with legal paperwork. I'm holding them right here in the envelopes they were received.
Their personal address, if I could just.
At their home address. This involves a lawsuit that was brought against the district and the city, where it's a trip and fall over, allegedly an open manhole cover. So the district and the city were both named in this. The city, filed an answer yesterday, which is the responsive, legal document, and then cross-complaint against the district. I'm not gonna fault the city attorney for trying to protect her client. What, I am going to lodge an official complaint with the city council about, however, is that the city attorney should never have served the president at home. Typically, we serve the clerk or the secretary of the board at the place of business, and Mr. Castillo Gomez is well aware of receiving documents, and in fact, the answer was served upon you, correct? So the answer was served upon him yesterday, but not the cross complaint. The cross complaint was served at the home of the general manager, who is not authorized to accept service on behalf of the district, and the president, who is, but it's really inappropriate, and I find this to be harassing. So I wanted to announce that to the board. I want to ask if any of the other board members received these documents as well.
I
Okay.
haven't checked my mailbox.
The one going in.
It wouldn't be a mailbox, it would be a.
I'll just, no, I have a
It would be
notice
a,
that says you can be served.
it would be a process server coming to your home.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that none of you had received that, and if so, I wanted to know because I will be lodging a complaint with the city attorney and the city council, probably tomorrow.
Let me clarify, so those who are in the audience, I thought you said it was mail, I needed the word serve.
That was personally served by,
For clarifying.
that is my report, to the general manager. Report.
Thank you. So we will now return back to our item, for Mayor Island Company 5.3. If there are any more additional questions from the,
So just a clarifying question, because the state law just went through, in regards to, elected officials and protecting their home address. And I know that I completed a form for, in my other role as county supervisor, where I'm updating my address to default to the, county administrative building. Do we have to do that in this role? With what just took place?
We don't give out addresses.
Right.
So it would have likely either been the result of a search of their own city files or a private investigator identifying the location of these people, which is completely unnecessary, just completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Through the chair, is the general manager's, that, I'm disturbed by the general manager's home address, is that public in any way? Affiliation with the district?
Well,
Oh,
we don't
so,
publish it.
okay, so they would have had to get it through other means.
Other means.
but this is served on behalf of the Vallejo City Attorney.
Correct.
So no one investigated my personal address. And again, I sit in executive roles and I've never been served in my home. It always goes to my clerk of my board.
It's very irregular. I will also just mention that I called the city attorney as soon as I found out about this, and I left her a voicemail and I still have not heard back from her.
And mine was served to my wife, and she said he's at work.
I'm sorry that
We do the president as well, because we all have families, and we want to make sure that our families are protected, and that's uncalled for. So I hope that's addressed with the city attorney immediately.
Through the chairman. Yes. So to answer the question though, I want to make sure, that what trustee asked is, so is there a particular form that we should be filling out? Whether it's here or anywhere in particular, just want to ask.
It's by default, when that legislation was passed, and actually, Assembly Member Mia Banta carried that legislation, and it's by default.
It's just like.
Always the place officer was saying that
Yes.
she filled out a form.
But it's by default.
Okay. So make sure that we're all clear. Be safe.
So, thank you, I appreciate that. So we, if I may redirect this back to 5.3, which is technically 5.4, if I'm not mistaken, on discussion of Mare Island. Are there any additional questions around this particular item?
No, I just want, I was gonna add, just a few minutes ago that obviously we were asking a lot of questions around like the developer, but I think it's more appropriate to look at third parties, including government agencies, as you research your question.
So we all agree as a board that, Ms. Collins will review the questions that we put in place, and really what we're asking is, what can this district do as a third party? Although we do not have authority over the DDA, but it does potentially conflict with our CFRs that dictate ratepayers and how that, how those rules play out and how we can charge, and also how we spend our dollars, as well, because there are CFR rules around how money is spent in this agency as well.
It's absolutely true, and yes, Madam President, I will look into it and I'll report back to you at or before the next meeting.
Thank you very much for your time. So I think the question before us still is appointing a Mare Island committee or a point person. So what is the pleasure of this board around the question that is being lodged around this particular item?
I think, the city of Vallejo and the wastewater district have taken action to, bring in a facilitator that works alongside the Mare Island Company to address broader infrastructure issues, if I'm not mistaken, or to address any issues that are out there that need to be resolved. Is that accurate?
I'm not sure I understand that. I mean,
Do we have a facilitator in place that?
no, I don't know if you're talking about the mediator between the city and us.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's that part that we're still working on, to try to find one. This was separate to just look at the kind of the engineering issues.
There's two groups that meet, right? There's a group that met the first Wednesday of every month or something like that. That was a technical group, and then there was the group that was the legal group. So I've been working with the city attorney to try to find an appropriate mediator. The ones that have been identified by both sides are not either agreeable to or available to. So we continue to work on finding the right person for this unicorn of an issue.
Yeah, I think, my personal perspective for what it's worth is, on the technical side, we just have to make sure that, the elected representative for that district is, being responsive to the residents and the businesses, as we are, and I'm not suggesting he's not, I'm just saying that's part of our jobs. So that's one, and then two, that we, ensure that the, city management team on a go-forward basis, to the extent that they have to work with the technical team is doing that. So I don't think that there's a need to appoint a committee or appoint a person on this side. So long as you guys are working together and are elevating issues to your respective boards.
And to that real quick, I mean, I've been thinking about it. I mean, we should strive a little harder to have a note taker to make sure the minutes from it, so that way we can disperse it. So that way it's very transparent in those meetings. We can do that.
There's an AI note taker. Just saying.
And to concur with that, I think you're looking at a level of expertise that would need to be, if you're looking for a permanent point person. I don't think as an elected official, anyone would even come close to that, nor would they want that role or responsibility to be able to do that. So I think that validates it more that a point person would not be appropriate in this situation.
Any other thoughts from the board? Yes.
I would like to add the parameters of a timeline or a time frame because we have talked about this before where there's been conversation around finding the mediator or facilitator for the meetings and there's been a delay. And in this role, I would like for the district to push for a timeline, and if there isn't a timeline, then if that timeline is not followed, then we need to follow up with escalating the action.
Yeah. Yeah, I would concur on that, and I think that is one where this board and the Vallejo City Council would be aligned and could give the same direction on a time frame to both sides. If one side in particular is causing a delay, then that can be communicated and can enforce the timeline.
I'd like to know how long we've been going back and forth regarding the mediator.
Since you guys gave us the I shouldn't say you guys, I apologize, the board gave the direction, we have been investigating, so the city attorney recommended two, we investigated them, so we set appointments with them, we met with them, we suggested two. And those weren't accepted by the city, just maybe a week ago, we got another recommendation from the city attorney, turns out that mediator just retired, so we have just been trying to go back and forth to find the right person. So that's.
So I'd like to know, what is the unique challenge?
Most mediators deal with, somebody who wants a big dollar amount and someone who wants a little dollar amount, and they find the middle number, that's what they mostly do. That is not a solution that we need in this situation, we need a really talented mediator who understands the legal challenges and the frankly political challenges and the business challenges with a third party. So this is not what normal settlement officers do. No, normal settlement officers take a car accident or it's slip and fall and negotiate between $1 million and $200,000. And so finding the right person who has the knowledge and skill set this is not a easy person to find.
So I'm curious to know, when we look at the profession itself, who have we, again, thought outside of the box? Since we know that this is not a traditional process, right? Have we thought out the box to think about who are those true experts who've been in the field many years and also might have a legal background, or more importantly, really understand the regulations and the rules and so forth and on that we're addressing and dealing with, that actually live in this profession, that are highly competent, executive level, maybe they have retired and they are now consultants, or maybe we even have someone who is a GM of a very complex organization that might be able to be in this role. I mean, I'm making this suggestion because I think we need to think outside of the traditional parameters, since we already know that traditionally when we have mediators, it really is about money versus all of the many things that we're speaking to, and finding someone who lives in the space. Have you guys looked for any like that?
I made a recommendation for, I would say non-traditional, a non-judge, and the city attorney rejected anybody who was not a former judge.
Not a former what?
Judge.
So
she would only accept a former judge, so some of the recommendations that I otherwise would have come up with, I've not been able to bring forward. I wanna be careful though, and I'm sorry, Madam President, just because I don't want to go too far off of our agenda. I just wanna make sure that we're staying as close to the agenda.
no, that's fine. I just want to throw that out and we can put it on the agenda so that we can have further discussion and further direction around, here are the timelines, here are the things we need to do. And even you bringing back research around this and a framing and suggestion so that we can carry it further. How about that?
Could I suggest that if we do not have an agreed upon mediator, by a week before the next meeting of
Yes.
this body, that we will put that on the agenda, would that be acceptable?
That's fine. Yes.
I was gonna make a quick follow, kind of similar comment. Of, would it be worth reaching out to the other decommissioned naval base cities, city attorney's office, Alameda, Concord, San Diego, whoever, East Coast, and say, hey, we have this wonky ownership issue. Is there anyone you recommend that helped you through legal issues related to infrastructure and a decommissioned base?
I love that idea, thank you for suggesting
And
that.
if I can be helpful in making those contacts, just let me know.
I really appreciate you saying that. I hadn't thought about it in that specific of a sense, but that's a really good point. Obviously, we've got Alameda, we've got a lot of
San Francisco.
And you can I could call the mayors, but it probably might just be better to just call the city attorney's office, and I'm sure they would help, because I'm sure they've not had, I don't think any city's had a pleasant experience with this type of work.
No?
Going back to your initial point about the bracks, green, digging up green.
Yeah. Thank you for that suggestion, and I really hadn't gone in that direction, so I appreciate that note, and that'll be my next stop.
Doesn't need to be a judge. So I'll end it with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there are no other questions from the board, thoughts or suggestions, we will close this, and our direction is that things will stay status quo in the way that it has been moving in the past, with the caveat that we would have more robust note taking at these meetings and that information shared out with this board. And if it's, needs to be a standing agenda item for those, notes to come, and for a condensed discussion around them, you can determine what would be a great cadence and make that suggestion to us, gentlemen.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Can I go back to the general manager report?
Yes, you can.
Perfect.
Bring you back.
Thanks, rain, did you see the rain today? Oh, there was a lot.
Yes, I wasn't in my garden planting my bulb while it was raining.
Crazy, the plant was able to handle it, really no problem, wasn't too bad, but it was pretty impactful. I'm gonna bring this up every meeting, until it gets here, save the date, July 11th, from 11 to 2, the district will host an open house. This event will feature tours of the wastewater treatment plant and some fun activities for the whole family. There's a lot of cool stuff that we do here, robotics, things like that, with the camera stuff, it's very cool, kids love it. So we're gonna make it a great family event. Yesterday, district staff attended an event at Cal Poly Maritime Academy. The event was to honor their student volunteers and to thank community organizations that have partnered with Cal Poly Maritime to improve the Vallejo community. Volunteers work with the district and the Vallejo Watershed Alliance on creek cleanup projects, restoration projects, and with the wing migration community event on Merritt Island. This Saturday, several district staff, including Jeff and Leah, will be at a booth during the Earth Days Festival. We'll be delivering messages about less toxic pest control solutions to protect watershed health. We'll also be discussing proper fat and grease or fog disposal and giving away fog collection cups. Congratulations are in order for our finance department. The Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA, has again recognized the district with the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, the highest recognition we can get in preparation and presentation of our audited financial statements. Another reminder for you as well, the California Association of Sanitation Agencies, CASA, is our advocacy association for wastewater issues at the state and federal level. They usually have 2 conferences a year. I usually always attend those. CASA will be having their annual conference this year in Napa, from Tuesday, August 4th to Friday, August 7th. So you can easily drive there. We can kind of pick the sessions that you want to go to. If any of you would like to attend this conference, please let me know and we can register for you. So let me know, take a look at it. I'll send you a link to CASA as well to take a look at it. That's the end of my report.
Thank you for your report. And okay. Now we have community forum, Mr. Clerk.
We have no public comment online or in person.
Okay, thank you for that. And then next on the agenda are reports by the Board of Trustees. Does anyone have a report? Yes.
I would just like to say that I have reached out to Caltrans and the city of Vallejo and MTC and STA, and we did boots on the ground on Highway 29 Sonoma Boulevard, and taking some concerns that Floodwater and Waste had shared of the challenges of coming out of Ryder Street onto Sonoma Boulevard. And I wanted to point out that they did add a light there for them, and also too, at the other entry, they gave them more time to exit because there's 2 entries that they go in and out through. So I'd like to thank Caltrans, the city of Vallejo, and also Floodwater Waste for sharing their testimonies of the challenges they have coming out of here. Also too, there was a death on that particular street as well at that location. So at first it was just gonna be some painting, but I really want to thank the team for listening and coming out, and they did this observation last year.
Thank you for that one.
Thank you.
Do we have any other? Yes.
I just want to reiterate, there's a community cleanup and outreach happening this Saturday, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The group is still looking for volunteers. And the Vallejo Homeless Union did get the permission of the owners to enter the property, and we want to also thank the district for allowing us to enter on from the Sacramento side as well. There will not be any bins provided, but there will be trash bags that have been donated from various community partners and associations. And there's a plan for those bags to be picked up possibly by a hauler or someone else, but regardless, they're still looking for volunteers. For this cleanup, you could come anytime between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. And, the check-in will be, there's, two places you can check in. It's either, by, between Carl's Jr. and Smart and Final, or on the, other side of Sacramento Street, you should see, some folks, either the Vallejo Homeless Union, the, Vallejo Together. You also have Rooted, Vallejo, Enough Housing, and, the SIOT team and Resource Connect Solano. That'll be out there. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements coming on? So with that said, I'd like to adjourn the meeting at 7:55. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. Thank you to the staff as well for your